Hello, I'm Cara Dahl Russell, continuing our After the News at Noon series for Women's History Month, Courtly Love and the Cult of the Virgin. Today discussing chivalric tales as cautionary tales. Tomorrow we will discuss the book of Chaplain André that is the actual how-to book of what we now call courtly love, but a direct translation of his little book's title is The Art of Honest Love. The term courtly love came about in the 1700s as courtiers looked back on these days through a rosy haze. But our folks called it honnête amour, honest love, or fin amour, fine or refined love. As you might guess from all that we've discussed so far this month, Chaplain André's book was not a breakthrough of new thought. It was prescriptive or retroactive. It was commissioned to define something that was already in existence in society and in general thought. It was commissioned to give it a clearer form and to codify the behavior. It was the troubadours and the writers of chivalric tales who sent the ideas out and created a pop culture that expanded beyond the noble circles for which the tales were initially intended. And yes, Chaplain André, or Andreas Capulenius, was one of the many authors of these stories. But the most prolific and best known of the authors were Chrétien de Troyes and Marie de France. As we've mentioned, these stories evolved from stories of adulterous romantic intrigue where one might hope for a kiss or more to a solid foundation in chaste devotion from afar. Some historians have called the stories of Chrétien de Troyes unreadable drivel. His stories detail the idealized state of utter subjection to an almost unapproachable woman, detailing how a knight could spend his entire life and risk his life in devoted service of a disdainful lady. We'll focus more today on the poet Marie de France. Born in France, Marie became known for her writings in the British court of Henry II. This was the court where Eleanor of Aquitaine was queen. Very little is known of Marie's life, but she wrote close to 4 volumes, possibly 40 poems of courtly love called Lais. She was also known for fables and innumerable translations. There is evidence that she knew Briton, Old English, Middle English, Latin, and Anglo-Norman, and wrote in a number of other Old French dialects. Ironically, her works were preserved because she was writing in England. At this time, the British had more interest in French vernacular writings than in the home country. The courtly love stories by Marie de France have remained of interest to historians, partially because of their practicality. It would be stretching it to call them earthy, but her stories basically say to the male writers, get real. Her stories demonstrate that this idealized fin amour is not so fine after all. Seen from her point of view, the courtly love relationship is just another kind of confining behavior expected of a woman. If she is not interested in the man paying court to her, the role is fairly easy. Ignore him, barely tolerate his protestations, and give him a handkerchief as he goes off to fight and hope to be rid of him. If, however, the woman is actually interested in her suitor, she must discourage him, show him little or no favor until he does some act of merit to warrant his being noticed in passing. In the very confined world of a woman at court, the men can come and go, but the women, for the most part, are stuck in their apartments, waiting for the phone to ring, metaphorically. And when it does ring, she's not supposed to take his call. When he wants to see her, she has to be busy. It's easy to see where the best-selling 1995 book, The Rules, came from. These rules were born in the behavior of courtly love. Marie de France was willing to point out that all this idealized behavior is a long, drawn-out, complicated game where no one wins. Suppose the lady in question is one of the rare, lucky ladies who actually married a lord that she loved or has grown to love. This constant barrage of sighing, gift-giving, attention-seeking courtiers could only serve to make her husband jealous and ultimately to make him suspicious of her love and fidelity. Shakespeare was not far removed from this time. Remember how little it takes Iago to convince Othello that Desdemona was unfaithful, a stray handkerchief. Now imagine a court full of Iagos, and you are Desdemona. It certainly explains how she could forgive Othello for his jealousy. Marie de France saw these downfalls clearly. She succinctly noted that this idealized courtly love was a lose-lose proposition, and she was witty enough to intend the double entendre on the word proposition. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet also reflects the stories of these days. We have mentioned how the Arthurian tales did not only detail the methods of chivalry and courtly love, but they were also cautionary tales. They told how love could make you forget your duty, and they told how duty could make you ignore your love. Based in the much earlier romance of Pyramus and Thisbe, Romeo and Juliet was an extension and elaboration of these ideas of competitive duty and devotion. The pull of family and honor, and the lure of impossible ideal love. To the tragic ending of Romeo and Juliet, Marie de France would have said, "I told you so."